In our last video, we were in Wilmington, North Carolina, where we took a stroll along the waterfront, got caught in an epic downpour, and checked out historic Front Street. In this video,
we are in Charleston, South Carolina.
Charleston is our 7th filming day on what we are calling Wanderlust 2022, our epic journey from Kansas to Florida and back again. As usual, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about this awesome American city?
Charleston is the largest city in South Carolina with a current population of about 150,000 people. It lies just below the geographical midpoint of the South Carolina coastline at an inlet where the confluence of the Ashley, Wando, and Cooper rivers come together. It was founded in 1670 as Charlestown, honoring King Charles II, but wasn't incorporated as a city until 1783.
Before we delve deeper, I just have to say, of all the videos that we've made, this one was one of the most difficult for me because of the footage that we took between the videos and the pictures. I had a hard time editing it. It reminded me a lot of when we went to Venice, where every few steps you saw another picture you just had to take. And so for those that watch our videos, you know my goal is to always make sure they're under 20 minutes. I will say it was a tough job to keep this one under 20 minutes. This is such a beautiful city.
Here we are at the Riley Waterfront Park, which is a 12-acre park along a half-mile stretch of the Cooper River here in Charleston. This is the Pineapple Fountain, and in the South, the pineapple is a symbol of Southern hospitality, welcoming guests into people's homes.
For American history buffs, Charleston is a must-see. The Battery Promenade and Waterfront Park both overlook the harbor, and Fort Sumter, a federal stronghold where the first shots of the Civil War rang out, lies across the water.
Speaking of history, we're coming up upon the information about the walled city. Charleston, back in 1704, basically built a moat and a wall to protect it from invaders. That also restricted its growth over time. In 2005, they began preserving remnants of the walled city.
Another perhaps lesser known fact about Charleston is that one time it was known as the Holy City because of its religious diversity.
You might notice here that it looks like houses are sideways, with their front doors facing their neighbors instead of the street. When the first city streets were laid out in 1680, the residential lots were long and deep, without a lot of street frontage. Putting the house sideways was the best use of space, and it allowed the home to take full advantage of the southern breezes, which is really important on those hot summer days. Despite the defensive wall going up in 1704 and this whole battery being a defensive stronghold, in 1718, Blackbeard the pirate sailed into Charlestown Harbor with 4 ships and took hostages for ransom.
When we first planned this vacation, this was the destination that I was most excited to visit, and it did not disappoint. Charleston is a beautiful and historic American city. I was really nervous that when we got here it was going to be pouring rain, because the previous day it did rain, and it rained hard and most of the day. But fortunately for us, it was an absolutely gorgeous day that was reasonably cool, given that we did film this in June. And there wasn't really too many people to contend with, so we must just be a little bit ahead of the tourist season.
As we made our way past the Battery, we decided instead of continuing along the waterfront, we wanted to make our way inland and look at these beautiful homes. I could not stop taking pictures of these. They were so amazing.
Yeah, as native West Coasters, specifically from the Pacific Northwest, visiting the East Coast is always a real treat. It is just so different than everything we grew up with.
Okay, and now we're going to do something rare for us. We're going to be quiet and let you take in these beautiful homes. We interrupt this silence to bring you Rainbow Row, Charleston's iconic, historic, beautifully colored homes. It's a common tourist attraction and one of the most photographed areas of Charleston. There is a lot of urban legends as to why they're painted so colorfully. One is so that drunk sailors coming in from port could remember which house they were staying in.
So after a beautiful stroll through the historic neighborhoods, we decided it was time to hit the downtown and work our way towards Marion Square and eventually the French Quarter.
Here you see the Old Exchange and Provost Dungeon, one of the three most historic buildings in colonial America. Delegates were actually elected to the Continental Congress in this building. The U.S. Constitution was ratified upstairs, and the Declaration of Independence was read publicly to the citizens of Charleston here in 1776. During the British occupation in 1780 through 82, the cellar was used as a prison, earning its infamous nickname, the Dungeon.
If you love American history, Charleston has to be on your must-see list. Just about every place that you walk in this city has some kind of historical significance. It really is an awesome town. This building here is a perfect example of a historical building that you should research if you're interested in such thing. This is called the Confederate Home and College. It dates back to the 1800s, but played a significant role in the post-Civil War era, where it was used to house Confederate widows and orphans.
Now you're looking at St. Michael's Church, which is the oldest church structure in the city of Charleston. On this site in the 1680s, the original Anglican church was built, which was a wooden structure. Then this was built in the 1750s. It is a beautiful and amazing building.
Yeah, this is a church that my father-in-law specifically told us to seek out. So Walt, if you're watching this, here's your church, and the significance is two signers of the Constitution are buried here. Charles Coatsworth Pinckney and also John Rutledge, who was the governor of South Carolina as well.
At this point, we turn from Broad Street to King Street and work our way through downtown towards Marion Square.
King Street was really cool. Kind of crosses through the middle of the peninsula, and apparently there's three different zones. The lower zone is what they call the Antique District, the middle zone is the Fashion District, and the upper zone is the Design District. To us, it was just a fun street to explore.
As popular as King Street seems today, it actually fell into disrepair after the Civil War and wasn't reborn until the 1950s. Today it is mostly local restaurants and shops, and it is really a live-work area.
The revitalization of King Street continues on to this day. In 2005, a couple popular restaurants went in there. 2009, there was some fine dining options, and it's certainly now a hub of nightlife and restaurants for the area.
Charleston, which was the fourth largest city in colonial America and the wealthiest, is actually also a city of firsts. The first public college, first museum, first playhouse, and first golf club in America were all established in Charleston. In addition, North America's longest cable-stayed bridge goes across Charleston Harbor, connecting historic Charleston and Mount Pleasant.
Next, we're coming upon Marion Square, which was once a military training ground for the Citadel. Now it hosts farmers market and some other festivals, and we'll get an update from Caroline there.
We've had a great time exploring downtown Charleston. We started out at the waterfront, walked along the Battery, then through residential district, and then into more of the commercial district. You could take 1,000 pictures and not capture every cool house or old building. And what's really great to see is they continue to renovate and update to maintain these structures. So many of them predate us as a nation back into the early 1700s. It's truly incredible.
So at this point in our adventure, we've been walking around the city for about 2.5 hours, so it was time to take a lunch break. We returned to King Street via the other side to make our way back to a restaurant we saw on the way, which was Aw Shucks Seafood Shack.
After a delicious seafood lunch, it was time to leave King Street and work our way towards Meeting Street and Church Street.
Here we are at Washington Square Park, which is at the corner of Meeting Street and Broad Street. This park dates back to the 1880s, and it was known as City Hall Park until October of 1881, where it was renamed in honor of George Washington. The center of the park is a memorial to the Washington Light Infantry. This memorial is made of Carolina gray granite and is a miniature version of the Washington Monument in D.C. Here we are at the Dock Street Theater, which is in the historic French Quarter neighborhood of Charleston. The current incarnation was built in 1809 and actually started life as a hotel, but was converted to a theater in 1935. The original building that sat on this very spot was the first building in all of the 13 colonies that was specifically designed for use as a theater.
Here we are at St. Philip's Church. I mentioned earlier when we talked about St. Michael's that the original building on that plot of land was a wooden structure. That was actually the original St. Philip's, making it the oldest congregation in Charleston, dating back to 1680. They moved to this spot on Easter Sunday, 1723, and in their churchyard, notable signers of both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution are buried.
So there you go, Walt. Between those two churches, I think we found the one you were looking for. So anyways, with that said, it's time to wrap this up. Okay, what do you think about Charleston, South Carolina?
I love Charleston. It's hard not to like the South, and the history here and the beautiful buildings and the beautiful landscaping, I give it a thumbs up for sure.
Yeah, this place is gorgeous. We got really lucky today. Yesterday we got poured on, but today's been very nice, almost completely sunny. It's hot, it's humid, but not intolerable. And it's going to be really hard to make this video because I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to edit all these pictures and video footage to keep it under my 20 minutes. But yeah, thumbs up. This has been fantastic. If you're in the area, you got to check out Charleston. Get off the couch. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.